So, you're mingling at a Hollywood after-party, surrounded by the glitz and glamour of the stars. Champagne flows, laughter rings, and the night is young. But then, you notice something, a pattern emerging across the room. Some of Hollywood's biggest names, their faces you've seen on the big screen, clutching glass after glass, a little too tightly, a little too often. You start to wonder, is this just an isolated incident? A single night of overindulgence? Oh, if only it were that simple. What if I told you that beneath the dazzling veneer of fame lies a shadowy world of addiction, reckless behavior and self-destruction, and that some of the most beloved and celebrated individuals have been ensnared in this world, becoming the 10 worst drinkers in Hollywood history? From iconic leading men to the brightest leading ladies, the list is both shocking and heartbreaking. But how did they get there? What drove them to the brink? And what lessons can we draw from their stories? Buckle up, because we're diving deep into a world that Hollywood would rather keep hidden. A tale of fame, addiction, and redemption that you won't want to miss. Gail Russell. When Gail stepped into Hollywood, she wasn't entirely ready for the spotlight. Sure, she had all the makings of a movie star, but there was one problem. She was painfully shy, but whether she liked it or not, the spotlight was on her, and she had to find a way to cope with it. With her big, beautiful blue eyes and a smile that could light up a room, Gail was truly one of a kind. Although she barely had a social life in her early years, she was highly interested in arts and would often keep herself busy with charcoal and sketch pads. Soon enough, she realized that she wanted to become a professional commercial artist, but fate had other plans. In 1942, while she was schooling in Santa Monica High School, she visited Paramount Studios with a friend, and that was the day her life changed. A talent scout discovered her, offered her a contract, and as soon as she graduated high school, she started acting. When her career began, the studio noticed that she struggled immensely with stage fright. They could see her potential clearly, but her fear was getting in the way, so the studio hired an acting coach to help her overcome the fear. She was able to calm her nerves a bit and take on her first acting role in the film, Henry Aldrich Gets Glamour, in 1943. The following year, she got a role in the film Lady in the Dark, and although her role wasn't a major one, the film's great performance automatically skyrocketed her career. Soon enough, she began to realize the weight of the career path she had chosen, and her struggle with shyness only got worse. According to reports, during the filming process of The Uninvited, her stage fright got worse. It was said that she spent most of her time on set trying to get herself together, but the fear wouldn't go away. Because of her issue, the filming process slowed down, and she began to look for a solution. It was at that moment that one of her co-stars suggested that she should indulge in a little alcohol to calm her fears. It worked, and she was able to film her scenes for the film. But that was only the beginning of something that would affect her forever. It started with a single sip, and before she knew it, she was running to alcohol on a daily basis. Although she showed up and tried to embody her roles as excellently as she could, it was clear that Gail's career was taking a toll on her mental health. Perhaps she wasn't built for the spotlight. Her drinking troubles got worse as the pressures of stardom and constant scrutiny became increasingly overwhelming. She was required to do her job no matter what, but deep within her, she was struggling. Sadly, Gail continued to find solace in alcohol to cope with the roller coaster of emotions that fame brought her. With every role she played, Gail's brilliance on screen was evident, but behind the scenes, she was struggling to keep her personal battles in check. Things got even worse when she found herself buried deep in a controversy involving John Wayne. There were rumors of her being involved in an affair with her co-star John Wayne, and his then-wife Esperanza Bauer reportedly had her suspicions as well. Although John and Gail both denied, saying that they were just friends, not everyone believed them. As her drinking problem worsened, it started to infiltrate her professional life. There were instances of missed auditions, showing up late on set, and even cancelling public appearances due to her struggles with alcohol. Sadly, her career began to suffer, and opportunities that could have been promising slipped through her fingers. Things only got worse for the actress as the years passed by. From testifying in John Wayne's divorce trial to getting arrested for drunk driving and enduring a messy divorce, things seemed to be falling apart for this actress. Her alcoholism had tarnished her reputation, and her career was practically in shambles. Towards the end of her life, she reportedly spent most of her time in her apartment sketching and drinking. According to reports, medical intervention proved futile. She relapsed over and over again until she got to the end of her road. On August 26, 1961, 35-year-old Gail Russell was found lying lifeless on the floor of her studio apartment beside an empty vodka bottle. She was said to have died from an alcohol-induced heart attack. Spencer Tracy. He was undoubtedly an iconic figure on the silver screen, but when he was not acting, he was battling an addiction that threatened to shatter all he had worked for. Even today, movie enthusiasts still celebrate Tracy's profound impact on cinema. His work in films like Captain Courageous, Boys Town, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner continues to inspire new generations of actors and filmmakers. He was truly one of a kind. People who witnessed his performances back in the day claimed that the actor had an authentic presence on screens. He was also known to portray his characters excellently. It was clear that the actor loved acting, and it seemed like his job as an actor was the one aspect of his life that he was proud of. From the 1930s to the 1960s, he made a name for himself and garnered a loyal audience, people who saw the star in him. However, as much as people loved Tracy's talent, his battle with alcohol addiction was a significant part of his life story, a part that could not be ignored. It wasn't an open secret. It was an ongoing struggle that affected various aspects of his personal and professional life, and it seemed to be getting worse with each passing year. Michael Caine's wife, Faye, once witnessed the depth of Spencer's struggle with alcohol. She said, "I remember having to meet Spencer for lunch at one of the fancy Beverly Hills restaurants. I don't remember which one, and he had been drinking. Boy, had he been drinking. We had a perfectly good time, though." Drinking became more than just a social indulgence for Tracy. It affected every area of his life. Despite his undeniable talent, Tracy's addiction often led to unreliable behavior on film sets. He reportedly had issues with his co-stars as a result of his addiction and had trouble concentrating on set. Yet there were moments when his brilliance shone through, transcending the grip of alcohol and delivering powerful performances that moved audiences to tears. As time went on, Tracy's health deteriorated due to his drinking habits. Alcohol-related health issues began to manifest, leading to further concerns for his well-being. Sadly, after years of facing health struggles, Spencer Tracy found himself at a crossroads in July 1965 when he received the diagnosis of hypertensive heart disease. As the months went by, Spencer Tracy faced some close calls, which made him even more aware of the fragility of life. But he wasn't alone in this journey. Amidst the ups and downs, he found immense support and companionship from none other than the talented Katharine Hepburn, his dear friend. Spending most of his days homebound due to his health condition, Tracy found comfort in the company of Katharine Hepburn, who was by his side, offering her unwavering love and friendship. Unfortunately, Spencer Tracy passed away on June 10, 1967. He died of a heart attack at the age of 67. There is no denying that his death was a significant loss to Hollywood. Oliver Reed. 100 pints in just 24 hours. This was the amount of alcohol that Oliver Reed once drank, according to Robert Sellers. Sure, a lot of people were aware of Oliver Reed's binge drinking, but even at that, 100 pints seemed like a shocking amount, even for the actor. Truth is, Oliver Reed was not always an actor who battled alcoholism. He was once just a young boy who had big dreams. Born on February 13, 1938 in Wimbledon, London, Oliver Reed's early years were far from indicative of the acting legend he would become. Raised in an environment centered around sports, particularly rugby, he initially showed little interest in show business. Little did anyone know that this unassuming young man went on to become a big-shot actor. Oliver's journey into acting was somewhat serendipitous. While attending the Royal Military Academy, he caught the eye of a casting agent, leading to his first film role as an extra in The Square Peg in 1959. From that period onwards, his life changed completely. Reed's rugged looks quickly drew attention, and he soon found himself cast in more prominent roles. He made a lasting impression in The Curse of the Werewolf and These Are the Damned, showcasing a unique blend of intensity and vulnerability that set him apart from other actors in his time. Although there were a lot of other good-looking and talented actors in his time, it was his ability to convey raw emotions on screen made him a standout figure in an era dominated by polished actors. As the 60s progressed, Reed's star continued to rise. His breakthrough came with the musical Oliver, in which he played the menacing but charismatic Bill Sikes. He had become one of Britain's most promising talents. Audiences loved his versatility, authenticity, and his passion for his craft. His roles in The Three Musketeers, The Devils, made people see just how phenomenal he was. But as his fame grew, He began to change. His love for alcohol had taken over his life. As the years passed, Reed's relationship with alcohol grew increasingly complicated. His drinking bouts became more frequent, and it was obvious that the excessive drinking was affecting him negatively. Even with all of these, a lot of people looked past his addiction and revered him as the talented man he was. Despite the struggles he faced, Oliver Reed's career continued to thrive in the 80s and 90s. Tragically, Oliver Reed's battle with alcoholism ultimately led to his demise. During the filming of Gladiator in 1999, he went to a Maltese bar and ended to drowning himself in alcohol. He reportedly had 3 bottles of rum, 8 bottles of German beer, numerous doubles of whiskey and Hennessy. By the time he was done, an alcohol-fueled heart attack claimed his life. Richard Burton. He is one of the actors whose life was filled with ups, downs, and several scandals. Through it all, he had a drink in his hand as he weathered the storms. He became a household name with his unforgettable roles in classics like Cleopatra, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. His booming voice and powerful presence on screen made him a force to be reckoned with in Hollywood. He was also famous for his affair with Elizabeth Taylor, but just like many other stars, the actor had his personal demons. Not many people know this, but Richard Burton first tasted alcohol at the tender age of 12, setting the stage for a tumultuous relationship with the bottle. Throughout his life, he found solace in the numbing embrace of alcohol during his darkest times, often turning to it as a coping mechanism for his personal struggles. One infamous incident that made headlines was when Burton downed a staggering 21 shots of tequila in a single night. The consequences were dire, as doctors warned him that if he didn't quit drinking, he was risking his life. His kidneys swelled, and his spine was encrusted with crystallized alcohol, leaving his health hanging by a thread. Despite these grave warnings, Burton couldn't break free from the grip of alcohol. The toll on his body was evident, but it was extremely hard for him to resist this addiction that had plagued him for years. Tragically, Burton's tumultuous relationship with alcohol eventually led to his untimely death in 1984. At just 58, he passed on as a result of cerebral hemorrhage. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift always looked as though he had the angel of death walking along beside him. This was what Alfred Hitchcock had to say about the legendary actor. Many people who came across Montgomery Clift claimed that he was sensitive and sweet, but disturbed by his personal demons, so he turned to alcohol for solace. But before all the fame, Montgomery was a young boy who fell in love with acting early. It all began in Nebraska, 1920, when a young Monty discovered his passion for acting during high school. People were drawn to his ability to express emotions in a raw and authentic way, and even at a young age, he had that special it factor that made him stand out. Fast forward to the 1940s, and Monty's career took off like a rocket. He made his Broadway debut in Fly Away Home, earning critical acclaim and a devoted fan base. His performances in films like Red River and A Place in the Sun further cemented his status as a Hollywood heartthrob. Audiences loved him for his intense, brooding acting style and remarkable presence on screen, and before he knew it, the world had fallen in love with him. But like many stars of that era, Monty had his personal struggles. It was during the late 1950s when the cracks began to show. In the midst of his struggle with the pressures of fame, he turned to alcohol to cope. Despite his personal struggles, Monty continued showing up to deliver remarkable performances. But with time, his excessive drinking started affecting his health seriously. His once boyish looks were marred by the physical toll of alcoholism. He suffered from car accidents and injuries which further hindered his career. The addiction also affected his professional relationships, leading to tension on film sets and missed opportunities. This certainly wasn't the life he envisioned. Addiction had stripped him off the life he worked so hard to build. Tragically, Monty's demise came on July 23, 1966, when he passed away at the young age of 45. The cause of his death was said to be a heart attack. Robert Shaw. I used to see Dad drink. I was often playing under the table in Irish pubs. These were the words Robert Shaw's son, Ian, uttered as he reflected on his father's drinking habit. From his memorable roles in Jaws and The Sting, people loved Robert Shaw's performances. The actor's journey in acting began on the theatrical stage, where he honed his craft and showcased his immense talent. As his career progressed, he transitioned to the big screen and quickly gained recognition for his versatility. It was his portrayal of Quint in Jaws that transformed his career completely. As with many artists, the pressures of the nature of his work began to get to him. The fame, constant scrutiny, and even the demanding nature of his job started affecting him deeply. As a result of this, the actor ran to alcohol to drown his sorrows and find strength to keep pursuing his career. Sadly, it didn't stop with a little indulgence. It grew into an addiction that shook the very core of his being. Things got so bad that he began to rely on alcohol for solace. It was said that he got really drunk before filming his famous USS Indianapolis speech. Despite his undeniable talent, his struggle with alcohol affected his career, and it was obvious. At times, it hindered his ability to fully immerse himself in roles, leaving some performances falling short of his true potential. Tragically, Robert Shaw's life was cut short when he passed away at the age of 51 in 1978. His life was said to have been claimed by a heart attack. Barbara Payton. She was a starlet whose beauty captivated the silver screen, but her battle with drinking would lead her down a rocky road. Barbara Payton was a woman who had it all, looks that could stop traffic and talent that wowed audiences. But little did the world know that beneath the perfect exterior was a battle with the bottle that seeped into every aspect of her life, like a relentless shadow. In the 1950s, Barbara's career skyrocketed, and she became the talk of the town. With her striking beauty and a knack for stealing the spotlight, she landed roles in big-name films like Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye and Bride of the Gorilla. Yet as her star rose, so did her desire to find solace in vices. As G-Kant grew, alcohol was the one thing she kept running to. Interestingly, Barbara's personality traits were as intriguing as her on-screen presence. She was said to be confident, bold, and smart, but the addiction was gradually affecting some of the best parts of her. In interviews, she displayed a frankness that was both refreshing and vulnerable, like when she said, "I'd like to be remembered as an actress, not as a tragic woman." However, her struggle with drinking was a major hurdle in her life. It crept into her career, leading to unprofessional behavior and career stalls. The press was relentless in its coverage of her personal struggles, turning her life into a tabloid sensation. But despite the turmoil, people loved Barbara Payton for her authenticity. She didn't put on a facade for the cameras. She was unapologetically herself. Her ability to be candid about her struggles resonated with fans, making her more relatable than the polished stars of her time. Sadly, drinking's grip on Barbara was unyielding. It affected her health, leading to a downward spiral in her later years. Her once radiant beauty was marred by the effect of addiction. In the 1960s, Barbara's life took a tragic turn. She faced personal and financial difficulties, and her battle with drinking escalated. She reportedly found herself in dire straits, living on the streets, a far cry from the Hollywood starlet she had once been. Despite attempts to seek help, she could not break free from the addiction. Sadly, Barbara Payton's life came to a heartbreaking end in 1967 at the age of 39. Errol Flynn. His career was nothing short of a cinematic adventure. But his adventure wasn't without obstacles. He is remembered for many reasons, and his 3-decade-long career is one of them. From his iconic portrayal of Robin Hood in The Adventures of Robin Hood in 1938 to the charismatic Captain Blood in Captain Blood in 1935, Flynn's performances were like a breath of fresh air. There was something different about the actor. Truth be told, Flynn's charisma was infectious, and moviegoers couldn't get enough of his daring on-screen escapades. But there was something about the actor that a lot of people didn't know about. The bright lights of Hollywood beckoned him into a world where parties and drinks flowed like a never-ending river. Before he knew it, he was struggling to stay away from alcohol. Unfortunately, the excessive drinking didn't spare his health. As the years passed, Flynn's once boisterous energy started to wane, affecting his performances and jeopardizing his career. Sadly, even the most vibrant stars are not immune to the consequences of indulgence. As his dependency on alcohol grew, it infiltrated every aspect of his life. The once fearless hero was now facing battles that weren't fought with swords or pistols, but with the inner strength to conquer his personal demons. His addiction was said to be the major root cause of his health issue up until his death. Errol Flynn passed away on October 14, 1959, at the age of 50. His death was caused by a heart attack, which occurred while he was at the residence of a friend in Vancouver, Canada. Bernard Lee. Losing his wife in a house fire and having to endure some traumatic events led Bernard to alcoholism. It was said that his entire life was marred with tragedy, and financial issues led him to depression and alcohol dependency. His life may have been tragic, but he tried to make the most of his career. He loved acting genuinely, but his pressures of fame affected him greatly. As his career progressed, Lee achieved widespread fame for his portrayal of the iconic character M in the James Bond film series. He was known to have embodied the role excellently, but as time went by, his desire for alcohol grew immensely. Each passing year, he found himself struggling to break free from the addiction that also served as a source of comfort. Despite his struggles with alcohol, Bernard Lee was adored by colleagues and fans for his warm and approachable personality. His alcoholism was allegedly so bad that he was watched closely on set to prevent him from consuming alcohol. Sadly, this vice would lead to his unfortunate death. At the age of 73, he died as a result of stomach cancer, most likely as a result of his years of excessive alcohol. John Barrymore. He was a man of unparalleled talent, but paradoxically found himself embodying roles of alcoholics grappling with their inner demons. Known for his theatrical prowess and dashing charm, John Barrymore emerged from a prestigious acting lineage, being part of the illustrious Barrymore family. With an obvious talent that enthralled audiences, he carved a niche for himself in both the world of Broadway and silent films. From his acclaimed portrayal of Hamlet to the suave seductiveness of Don Juan, he left an indelible mark in Hollywood. However, not many people knew that John Barrymore faced personal struggles that mirrored the roles he so brilliantly portrayed. Early on, the seeds of his drinking habit were planted, exacerbated by the pressures of fame and personal turmoil. The very characters he brought to life seemed to echo his own internal battles with addiction. As the years rolled on, alcohol slowly infiltrated every aspect of his life. The line between the actor and the characters he played began to blur as he wrestled with this vice. Despite his immense talent, Barrymore's battle with alcoholism changed his life and affected his career. He reportedly began to act erratically on set, and he struggled to remember his life. By the late 1930s, Barrymore's health visibly declined, and he faced a series of health issues including liver problems and other alcohol-related ailments. The man who breathed life into iconic roles like Svengali in Dinner at 8 and Sherlock Holmes in Sherlock Holmes seemed to wane under the weight of his addiction. On May 29, 1942, at the age of 60, John Barrymore's life came to a tragic end. While officially cited as cirrhosis of the liver, it was evident that his lifelong struggle with alcohol contributed to his health challenges. The stories of these Hollywood stars are indeed heartbreaking and a reminder of the weight of our choices. When it comes to relationships, choices also have to be made. Here are some classic Hollywood stars who chose to keep their same-sex relationships private.